of being an authentic leader and an effective leader is having to have difficult decisions, have hard conversations. Can you talk about how you brought your leadership principles into some of the change that had to happen in the region?
I came in there and I knew there were some challenges with certain potentially leaders or certain individual contributors that needed to be addressed. So, and
Mhm.
I knew that. I've never walked onto a team where it's perfect, and I never left a team that's perfect, right? That's just kind of and I've
True.
always said you've got, the 20% of the top performers, generally 60 to 70% are right in the middle, and they're pretty good, and they kind of ebb and flow. And then you might
Mhm.
have 10 to 20%, depending, or more on a micro team where really there's got to be a lot of change that happens. Um, for me and what I've learned to do is you have to listen to everybody fairly. You will have input from people that may give you a, hey, watch out for this with this person, but let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt to, and give everybody the same opportunity to have that conversation with you. And then so I built the trust, even
Yeah.
though I knew the individuals that may not make the turn. They may not just make the turn, I guess is the way I'd describe it. But even then, when we started to have difficult conversations, and again, I approach it with, let's talk about you. How are you doing? Situational leadership. How do you feel about how things are going? There is numbers. So sometimes it's easier in sales because like you're at 50% and you have been for 3 years in a row. Or, you're in pre-sales, your demos or whatever, right? The feedback that
Yeah.
we're getting about you. So there's lots of, but if you approach it with, how are you feeling about how things are going at work with you personally? Now, we've already built trust, right? We've had multiple conversations maybe.
Mhm.
And so having a difficult one that is much harder to do if it's a first or second conversation you're ever having with that person. It's
Yeah.
really hard. And so it is sort of like that sandwich thing, but you don't have to do the sandwich thing necessarily in the conversation, right?
Mhm.
So it's like a catch up. Hi, Katie, how are you? Oh, Katie, trust me. Hi, she's smiling. We talk a little bit. The open ended question, how are you feeling about things or how they're going at work for you, right?
Yeah.
And then and they generally know. So they will generally say, well, this or this or this. So maybe my leadership trust score wasn't very good if I'm a leader, or my results haven't been very good. Let's
Mhm.
talk about it.
Yeah.
What's going on there? What do you think maybe we need to work on to do differently? You're either going to get people that are going to be in denial
Mhm.
and defend, or they're going to come clean and say, yeah, I'm really struggling here and I need help. And then that the path is, okay, let's get the help that you need and let's hope for change, right? And you end
Yeah.
the conversation, great, we've got a game plan. I'm going to take this action, you're going to take this action. If they're
Mhm.
in denial and the blame, then that becomes just a different ending conversation. Like, okay, we
Yeah.
need to do some follow up because I don't feel like, but you can have that conversation because there's already been multiple conversations. It's much like with your children, right? It's not hard to sit down with your kid because they know you love them at the end of the day. They wake up,
Right.
90% of the conversations are good. So if you have 10 to 20% that are tough, you want them to still feel like you care about them. It's not
Mhm.
you as an individual, it's your performance right now, which might mean just a misalignment in the role.
Well, I love that your approach is simply to ask questions and make that human connection. I've always said people can't argue with their own conclusions. So I could tell you we've only made our number 50% of the time for the last 3 years. But if I asked you questions and you can articulate some of the hurdles and the challenges that you're seeing or where you feel like it's not
Yeah.
successful, then it's on the table for us to talk about in a different way. And it's what I observed is traditionally in sales, you're used to the authoritarian leader who comes in yelling and you're scared of them. And you came in with a much more gentle approach, bringing that authenticity and a lot of grace. And I think that grace was really an attractor, for our teams, but also for talent to want to join. And I think that was something special that happened is we really became a magnet for talent and like a incubator for growth.
We did. And, we had leadership changes. You were a leader that came in
Mhm.
and it was a good thing. The leader that you replaced ended up moving on to doing something different, but you were able to help raise the level of the leaders that reported to you. I had an opportunity to change out a couple of leaders, and we brought in some, outside talent.
Yeah.
And then, but I had to then empower them and give them the time to do what I was doing, right? I couldn't just say, where's the change? Where's the change? Where's the results?
Yeah.
And listen to you and listen to them that here's what I've learned, here's what I'm uncovering, here's what we had lots of conversations about, okay, where are you at with this? And at the end of the day, I also believe that people need to own their decisions. So if you are adamant about something,
Mhm.
I had to say, okay, Katie's closer to this than me. Maybe I don't disagree based on what I'm seeing or hearing,
Yeah.
but do you trust her? Yes. So I have to empower her and I have to let this thing play out and see if she's wrong or if it doesn't really matter
Mhm.
because I'm going to support her at the end either way.
Well, and I think that's one of the great parts about structuring the conversations with questions is you're giving them a chance to share things that you need to learn that might change your perspective and might open up a different avenue than you initially came in thinking of how we were going to solve for this. So that's, I think a great way to think about how that trust building and accountability can continue to unfold through the questions that you're asking, the
Yeah.
space and time that you're giving as well. I definitely saw that time be a very powerful thing where, we both know we had a region that was struggling for a long time. And, you brought in a new leader and it didn't turn around immediately. It wasn't the next month, the next quarter, but because you gave the time and you had the trust that what was happening, I saw that region completely turn around and becoming one of the strongest performing regions for us. And I think that's
Yes.
because of the intentionality.